hope you'll join us to do our Patriotic Night Sky. It's coming up next. With today's supply list. We have our canvas, our yellow, red, blue, black and white acrylic paint, our cup of water, our brushes, a large flat brush, a medium brush, and a small brush. Optional equipment is a pencil and an extra cup of water. So let's get started. I'd like to show you my palette. Red, white, and blue, pretty easy. We're going to use black later. I don't necessarily like to put it on there, because there's always that chance you're going to dip into the black by accident. This we can make work. The black is a little bit harder to cover over, so to speak. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with our blue and the widest brush we have. And we're just going to go back and forth. Okay, don't forget to do the tops and the sides, of course. And right now, you see I'm just getting the canvas covered with paint. The majority of this is going to be blue. I can decide when I get down to it where I want my tree line to be. And I think I'm going to go maybe a little bit lower. And again, we're going to paint over it anyhow, so it doesn't matter where it lands. And this is kind of a rustic looking painting. So if you're not covering 100%, that's okay. And again, we're going to be putting more paint on it later. So I'm going to get all this dark stuff up here at the top. And you know how I feel about long strokes. Sometimes I'll just use short strokes just to get the paint on here, but then we always fan them out. Nice long strokes. Otherwise you see these little blotches. But again, this is the kind of painting that it's only going to add to the interest of it. So I've decided that's pretty much where my tree line is going to start. Or maybe, I mean, you can cover the whole canvas with blue and then decide later. So I think I'm going to go down within an inch or two of the bottom, and then I'll decide, because that's going to be the last thing I'm going to put in. Now, sometimes your paint is, depending on the weather, it's pretty moist out there today, so it's not terrible. But sometimes if it's really hot, your paint doesn't flow very far or very fast. Let me show you what you do. You just put it here for me. Dip it in that much and shake off any excess, so that when you're shaking, there should be nothing coming off. Okay? Okay. And then where it was really heavy, it's going to help it spread. You do not want this dripping, okay? Excuse me. More. Because it'll also lighten it up. But again, this step, we just really want to get the color on here. Not so much the worried about it. You know, we do our paintings in layers, so this is the first layer. And this, you know, I always tell you to do your sides and your top and your bottom, but this one you really should, because this one is, again, it's going to add to that interest. And you don't want the sides looking all bleh. Technical art term, bleh, just so you know. So you can see a lot of that, like I said, where the lines are short. Again, it doesn't matter because basically the background is supposed to be a sky, okay? Now, if you have a sponge brush, you can use that, but honestly, I don't know. I'm not fussy for using a sponge brush. I do like to, you know, feel it. Sponge brushes, I don't know. Everybody has a personal preference. And you'll hear me say, use your biggest brush you have, and use your medium-sized brush, and use your small brush. And I always say the reason I do that is because I don't want you to get all caught up on what size brush do I have? What kind of brush do I have? Do I have the right brush? We're going to make it work, okay? And I really fall in love first with art. And hopefully you already are in love with art, but fall in love with it, then decide if you want to invest in a brush or brushes. And there's some great brushes out there that are not super, super expensive. I mean, I know there's one brush, it's like $278 for the brush, believe it or not. But yeah, I will be buying that anytime soon, by the way. Okay, so we have all that blue on there. Okay, let me just get my picture here. So, and that's going to dry up a wee bit. Okay, and it's come all the way across. Now, because I want this part of my sky to be more night-like, I'm going to just take my brush that's blue, and I'm going to just pull some white over here, okay? And dip that in that blue. Yeah, I'm sorry, there you go. A little bit of blue there, I mixed in with the white. What I'm gonna do with that is, I want it to come down here and really spread it across. I don't want this line to be confused with my white stripes though. So you see how it's really blending in there? That's okay, that's what we want. I'll keep doing that. The only part we want really, really dark blue is actually our corner where our stars are gonna be. But that's okay. And you see, I'm just doing it over here. I'll decide in a minute where I want my stars to be. Nice. And you see how it's just, I mean, I took the smallest amount, and so I didn't really blend it together. You know, I just put it up here. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to, a little short of half, let's go up a little bit. How about, let's go to a third, okay? If that makes it easier for you, let's go with kind of like a third-ish, and we'll work from there. Okay, get some more paint on my brush. And just, again, and it's okay if you leave striations of the white there, because, you know, we're going to get into there as well. Okay. So I'm pretty happy with our background right now, okay? Oh, and down here, like I said, well, let's fill it in, right? Just because I said it would. And then we'll worry about that down there. So for our next layer, I want to get a little bit more coverage on here in that corner. So I'm adding another layer of the blue, and you see how I'm just dragging it out there into where we're going to put our stripes. Where it gets lighter, that's okay. I think you've all got this part down, right? I think so. And again, if it doesn't cover completely, okay. Let me get my sides. Now, often I know artists who are videotaping, they will stop midway, turn it off, and complete this portion. Like just, you see, I'm covering it, they do 3 strokes, turn it off, come back. I know some people like that. I know some people do not. So I'd rather err on the side of caution and just do the whole thing. You can always fast forward through at this point if you'd like. So you see that we have some of that whitish blue in there, and we have this corner is still pretty dark. So what we're going to do now is, I think I'm just going to drag this a little bit on the top because I didn't do the top. Okay. Okay. And that's kind of important to get that top done at this point. Why? Because we're going to be putting our stripes on. So, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Let me see. 3, 4, 5, 6. The 6th stripe should land under here, under that piece there. But again, don't get caught up on it. We're not worrying about it. I just had an idea. About that, I had to break away for a little bit and edit something because it went askew. But now we're back, and this is our background. It's drying up a little bit. I don't want it super dry, but let me see how we're doing. Still a little tacky. In the meantime, what we're going to do is we're going to decide where, basically, if this was a flag, where would our stars start? Just because I want to make sure that's the red line, because the red line is what, the red stripe is what butts up against our field of stars. Okay, and all I'm going to do with that, I'm going to show you what I'm going to do, is I'm just going to take that, see, on the wrong side, the side coming down here and about to there. So I think this bottom line here is going to start about there. Okay, I'm going to bring it over so you can see it. Can you see how tiny that is? The only reason I'm putting it there is because I just want some guidance for when I'm putting the clouds in, because that's what they are. They're white clouds and they're red clouds, and maybe it's just now sunset, so the bottom is a little bit lighter. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my red, okay, I'm going to drag it in the middle, and and you notice I always take from the outside. I don't want to do that because then it'll mess up all of it. I'm just going to grab some white, not tons of it, just enough, and blend that in there. Okay, I want to make sure it's still reddish, not pink, not bubblegum pink, and it's going to look a lot different when you put it up against the blue. But I'm just going to add a little bit more red to that, just to give it a little bit more depth. Okay. Again, they can all be different colors. The reds can all be different shades, I should say. I'm sorry. Don't want to confuse you. Okay. So that would be one of my red stripes. Okay. And I'm not going to load up my brush. I'm taking off most of what's on my brush. Okay. I'm picking up a little bit. It's easy to see. I just picked up that much. Okay, and I'm going to do that stripe first. Okay, and remember, these are supposed to be like clouds, so I'm just gonna, our clouds are not even, they roll around. You see I'm dragging it? It's such a dry brush. Okay, and I'll add a little bit more. Okay, so this was a little wet. I let it dry up a little bit, and now I'm bringing my paint, and it does look quite pink, but again, it's the sky. We have to remember that it's supposed to look like a clouds. Doesn't go to the end. It's not exactly even. Maybe it's a little deeper there. I'm going to go back. Come down a little bit. Whereas maybe I'll put a white cloud in there, but in the meantime, and I love to do clouds like this, top and bottom. Okay. Rinse out my brush. Just because it was very heavy with paint. Sometimes that'll happen, especially if you use your brush to mix your paints. You can use a palette knife or a craft stick if that's helpful. Okay, so I kind of got that sky going up there. I'm gonna come down here and see how it's not connected because it's clouds. Okay. Okay, I'm gonna work my way up. And that if there was a white line there, there might be some red clouds going on right there. Maybe it needs a little bit more. That obviously, because we're going over the blue, needs a little bit more white in there. And that's quite light, so I don't want that to be confused with the white ones. So I'll just go over that with some straight up red. Okay, I'm gonna skip a spot where that might very well be a white line or white set of clouds, and I'm just gonna come over here. And if you get those sharp lines, just mute them down a bit. You could do a really dry brush and that'll take them off completely. Well, take it down at least. Oh, I love it. Okay, I'm just gonna bring it over. Even though this is probably gonna get covered by the trees, but at least we can still see it. So now I'm going to wash off my brush really, really well, because now we're going to use white. We always want to make sure that our brush is clean if we're using the same brush for white after a color, because it would be terrible if you created this beautiful painting and then all of a sudden a streak of blue goes through your white or something that doesn't belong there, okay? So you want to make sure that you are washing that brush really, really well. And that when you put it on your paper, it's clean. It only shows water, okay? So having done that now, I want to get some of those white clouds in there, okay? So I'm gonna grab some white. And I'm gonna, I don't know, let me see. Yeah, okay, I'm gonna grab some white. And I'm just gonna come down here where, like I said, there's chances are this is not gonna be anything. But I'm gonna cover that with the trees, okay? But we also wanna make sure that our brush doesn't have globs of paint because we wanna really be able to feather it out. So I'm loading it up with just a small amount of paint, okay? And I'm gonna start in here. And again, that motion, get that motion down. It makes life so simple. And look, this one's going, it's touching that red and it's touching this pink. Okay, nice. So we're getting our clouds in. I don't want them to end in the same spots. I want them to be staggered, okay? And grab some more white. And come up here and really just You see how that comes all the way over, but it's dry. And this one actually went off the canvas. But that's how clouds are. Again, you see, I'm just taking a dry brush and just moving around the paint that's already on the canvas. Okay, so I'm going to go up to the next one. Do the same brush stroke that I did before, okay? Loading it up, but not tons. That's just using the tip of the brush, right? And then just feathering it. And this is going to feather all the way in. Look at that. But again, don't want it to end the same spots. Grab a little bit more white. Touched again. I come up here now and same thing. And you're correct, there are not 13 stripes on here, but because we're going to be covering some of it. And remember, it's supposed to be the sky. Get out there a little. Maybe I like a little bit more over here. And again, it might not stay here because of the trees. But I really want that bottom to look like there's a sky in the background where the sun has just gone down. So that one I am touching. Because on a horizon, they would all look like they were touching. And that's just the horizon at the bottom. Okay? So again, if you're happy, I know all of you just said, and you know it, clap your hands, because that's what went through my head. If you're happy, as am I, add some little coming off of there. What we're going to do now is we're going to go on to the next step. And I like to do the stars. And remember, the stars are all over the place. And I'm just going to drag this a little bit further out, because I want that to be more of like a box there, okay? Now, if you want, you can flick your brush. Do not do this in the living room, okay? I'll show you what you do by flicking your brush. Is you put the paint on your brush, and you go like this, and then you let it flick, okay? Like pulling your nail across it. So, hold on. Ah. This is best done with a toothbrush too. Hold on. So I'm pushing forward with my finger so that it flicks back. Okay, I know you can't see it. When I finish this part, I'll bring it up closer. So yeah, your finger's gonna get dirty, by the way, just so you know. So I'm putting it on here, I'm bringing it back, and I'm flicking it. So. Do this kind of upside down too. Kind of a little abstract. Now, if you don't want to do this, skip it. But it's fun. I got to tell you, it's fun. Okay? And I'm going to bring it up close now in a second. So this gives it even a more abstract kind of look. Okay? I'm going to mark where I had it so I know where to put it back, okay? That's what I just did. Those little lines, little tiny dots. But we all know that we want those stars to, I mean, they could be shooting stars. How cool would that be? But sometimes we want to do something a little bit more star-esque, okay? We'll call it star-esque. And just light ones and dark ones all over. I'm going to take the back of my brush, okay, that's the side without the bristles, and I'm going to dip it in the white paint. I want to make sure. Put a nice fair amount on there. You see that? Okay. And what I'm going to do is, and this is very this is the best part. You're just gonna pop them around. And you see, some of them are sideways. As you run out of paint, you get a different size. So that was just one, and I'll bring it up closer. You see that? See, some are smaller, some are lighter, some are more round. This is how I do perfect circles too, by the way, like when I'm doing dots. I'll load up again, maybe not so much, and I'm bringing it out into there. And again, get what's on the side. Just want those stars to be showing. You can be done when you want to be done. That's the great thing about this. It's really so random. Now, if it's bothering you and you really need to have 50 on here, do 50 like that, where at least it's all over the place, okay? Because that's the fun part. And again, mine come on the top and the sides. Remember, if you just drag it, you get kind of a longer star, okay? All right, now I'm gonna wash off my brush and we're going to finish up our painting by using the black now. So I'm just taking, gotta clean the white off in the cup which has the white water. And for a little bit of it, we're going to use the larger brush. Okay, I'm just going to make sure that down here is dry. Okay, I knew the blue would be dry, but it's the white and the pink I have to worry about. Still good. How high up can I go? By doing this, you can know how high you can go before you hit wet paint. Okay. Okay, I don't plan on going higher than that anyhow. So what I'm going to do now is, remember how I said I wouldn't put black paint on there? I'm still not. I'm going to put it on a separate plate. Excuse me. Just because I can. Or you know what? I don't even have to use a plate. I can use it straight out of the cup. And then you're sure to save. You're not going to waste any. Okay? So this will be very organic down here. Do I need to lift this up a bit? Make it a little easier for you guys. Okay, yeah, perfect. So I'm just going to take the black and I'm going across the bottom. You're just covering that sides as well. You know that. You know the drill. In case you don't want to frame it, because you can frame it. We offer frames at West Point Arts and Crafts. Do some great jobs in there on painted, painted pictures. Okay, so I'm just going to cover this. I'm not worrying about, going up and down yet. I just want to get that bottom covered because I know at least this much is going to be solid black. Okay. I'm going to go up at least to the white. And if it doesn't have a straight line, that's fine, because I'm going to take away the straight line anyhow. But we just want to make sure all the black is on there and all the white is gone. Sometimes if you have too much paint on, as you're putting down paint, you're pulling off paint as well. So we try not to do that. Come over here. And I can really lay it on thick at the bottom and then just kind of work it from there. So I'm going to go up at least as far as, excuse me, where there's white still showing. Okay. And you want to get that on there. Some blue coming through there. Perfect. Not a problem. This is a great painting for anybody, young and old alike, as we say. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to grab my medium-sized brush because I want to have a little bit more control. So when you're painting, the bigger the brush, the more, the more you're going to cover, but you're not going to have tons of control. The medium brush, you get medium control and medium coverage, and of course the small brush, tons of control, very little coverage. So what I'm going to do now is with my medium brush, excuse me, still using the black, I'm going to come in here, I'm going to wet it first, just so I can, this way the paint is actually going to go and not suck up into the brush. I gotta find a spot. There we go. The tip of the brush. And I'm going to come in here and I'm just going to make some very random lines. I see some go higher, some go lower. It's kind of dry in here today. Maybe one goes way up. And so, they're not, these should not be evenly spaced, same height, really mix it up. Some can lean over. And I find if you flick from the bottom up, you get a really nice thin top, okay? And maybe this is on a ridge somewhere. Maybe it's a little bit higher. And maybe it's just fill that in there. So it was a little too, straight of a line. I want it to be a little bit more uneven. Okay. What we're going to do now is so much fun. I'm going to flick that up. I want a real tall one at the edge over here. I'm going to take my medium brush and I'm going to, again, with the front, I'm just going to make little lines like that, okay? And that's going to be our trees. A lot of people do trees differently. Maybe I'll do a few different types in here, just to show you how simple it is, okay? So I got that little bit of black there. And at the top, of course, let me come into the middle to show you the first one. Just do a little bit. And you're going to meet up at the bottom, okay? That's all there is to it. I'm going to bring it closer, do the next one. Can't wait to get my new tripod. Hopefully it'll go over my shoulders so I don't have to paint sideways. So I'm going to come close, okay? And laying the tip of the brush here, I'm just going to go back and forth a little bit. Very tiny bit there, a little bit more there. Okay, it's all going to fill in when we put the other trees in there, okay? So I'm going to do that, and maybe fill in there a bit. I'll do another one over here, same way. Can you see that? It's hard to see in the blue. I'll show you another one in the white in a second. Totally random. Okay, one more in the middle in the white. It's easier to see. And again, I'm doing this backwards and sideways. Here we go. Got it? I'm going to go a little bit there, a little bit there, coming down. And it's not always even on both sides. And you can make it a little wider at the bottom by just making longer strokes. And that's how you get those realistic trees. I'm going to continue to do that. Get them filled in. You can do a few at a time, you know, because it is a silhouette. Maybe these are the pine barrens, we don't know. Some of you might want to see a different type of tree, something a little fuller. Again, loading up the tip of my brush, and I'm going to show you this on at the back of a plate. Okay, so there's my tree. Okay, I'm going to grab some paint, and off the top I'm just going to bring it down. Got that? Starting there. And some can go down, right? Some can go off this way as you get closer to the bottom. It's more of a traditional type Christmas tree, maybe. Again, it doesn't have to be 100% even, but I'm gonna pull it out. Okay, so that's another type of tree. Use whichever one makes you happy. I'm gonna come down here and do some more. Okay. And some of these are very full, so you're not going to see any, sky between them. But it's kind of neat because you can just make them whatever you want. And sometimes I'll put too many trees, and I just fill it in, cover them, with a few things. And you see my brush is getting dry. Perfectly great, actually. Let me show you what a dry brush will do. So let me find the spot. Up there we go. So my brush is basically dry. So as I do it, just drag it over. Don't know what's gonna come out. But look at that. It really did, make a really realistic tree with the dry brush. We're going to do some more, and then we're going to call it a day. Again, they may be so far away you can't really make them out. And again, you want them staggered, you want them different heights, close to you, far away from you. This is where you check to see if you have any white spots coming through. And that's why we did the splatter before we did the black. There is a method to the madness, just so you know. That wasn't just by accident. I'm what you call a consequential thinker, which means I always think a few steps ahead. Not the greatest thing. Sometimes it's great, not always, okay? So up here, it's really, really tiny up there. And then as it comes down, maybe some bare spots. Maybe they were made by a bear. That's why they're bare spots. I know. Those are grandma jokes. That's okay because I'm a grandma, so they're expected of me. Let's throw some more in there. And maybe some of them are just sticks. Maybe they're so far away we can't make out, what's going on with them. They always have stuff coming off it. And another thing you can do is just put in little triangles. Maybe those are the ones that are living way, way back there. And you can't make out the the branches. So I think these are spaced way too closely, you know, like 2 inches, 2 inches, 2 inches, like that. So I'm going to make some more little tiny guys in between, because I don't want it to look I want it to look staggered. And sometimes if you want, just put a few trees in and then go back, because then you're not committed like I am right now to doing all these. Grab some more paint. I do like where it sits though on the canvas. Some of them you can see through. I don't want necessarily see through. I mean, you can have some of the blue show through because there's not tree there. But if it's supposed to have branches, I don't necessarily want you to see through the branches. Except for like here, that I like. And I think there needs to be kind of a crest here. Maybe a crest that comes up like this. So now maybe these trees are up a little higher. Because they're all pretty even. So, and again, this is one of those parts where it can take you all day. Okay. This is a great family project. Everybody can do one and see, you know, see everybody's interpretation of the painting. So I gotta be honest with you. Now, I'm gonna show you that if you want to use, you could use your thin brush, your super thin brush. That's fine too. You might get more control if you're new to painting. Yeah, you could use that. But I think you do just fine with this one as well. And I like that little blue coming through there. Maybe there's, you know, water, a body of water. And that, my friends, is done. Okay? So of course I'm going to wash out my brushes. Our tools are our friends. We want to always make sure that we treat them well, because you work for them, they'll work for you. Well, this Patriotic Night Sky was a lot of fun to do. I hope all of you enjoyed it, learn a few new techniques, so that next time when you come back, you'll be way ahead of the game. Till then, be blessed, be safe, and as always, art is everything.